Bill Shaikin from the Los Angeles Times covering the Dodgers. Hi, Bill. Good morning. Thanks for joining us. How are you?
Good. How are you?
What do you remember about Larry Walker? Do you remember that season when he hit 366 with 30 homers and 30 stolen bases?
I'm Canadian, so of course I remember.
The greatest Canadian baseball player of all time is?
Boy, it would be hard to say it's not him. If not, maybe Joey Votto, but I'm going to go with Walker.
Is Votto going to be a Hall of Famer when it's all said and done?
That is a great question because the composition of the voting body changes from year to year.
Yeah.
Older guys retire or they stop voting. Younger guys have the 10 years necessary in covering baseball to get in. I think if Votto were on the ballot today, it would be tough because a lot of the older voters value certain statistics that maybe are not as valued as much by some of the younger and more analytical writers. And since you have to wait 5 years after you retire even to get on the ballot, and then you have 10 years going forward, I think he gets in, yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I saw sort of the projections that Votto would be on the short list of today's players getting into the Hall of Fame. We're talking to Bill Shaikin of the LA Times. Obviously, with the Dodgers, lost 4 in a row, the bullpen imploding here. Is there a light at the end of the tunnel here?
The light at the end of the tunnel yesterday was provided by Kenley Jansen, who no one on the team had seen since he had his heart episode in Denver. He had flown back to L.A. to talk to a cardiologist. Turns out the Dodgers got home yesterday. There was Kenley in the clubhouse laughing and smiling. He threw a bullpen. He's going to do running and work out this week. There were reports that he was going to miss 4 to 6 weeks, and Kenley said, I ain't missing 4 weeks. I ain't missing 6 weeks. That said, he still has to have the follow-up visit with the cardiologist, but Dave Roberts and the rest of the Dodgers are very encouraged that whatever happened, they've taken care of. It's under control. Kenley said he's probably going to have a second heart procedure. It's called a cardiac ablation, where they essentially burn off the troublesome part of your heart. And I don't want to make any light of that or make it sound like I'm a doctor, certainly. But as far as heart procedures go, it's pretty reliable. He had one 6 years ago. Sometimes it comes back. More often it doesn't. But when it does, nobody seems to think it'll be a problem. And, of course, the best thing is nobody's saying, oh, my God, you need to do this now. We can wait and do it after the season.
Can you overstate his value to this Dodger team?
It increases every day they play without him. They were in Denver for 4 games over the weekend. In 3 of the games, the Dodger relievers lost the game in the Rockies' last at-bat. In the 4th game, the Dodger relievers blew a lead. They got home last night. Clayton Kershaw pitches 8 innings, the longest game he's pitched this year. He's just terrific. All they need are 3 more outs. They've only got 1 reliable reliever this year besides Kenley Jansen. That's Scott Alexander. They sent Scott out to get those 3 outs. Clayton Kershaw gave up 4 hits in 8 innings. Scott Alexander gave up 4 hits in 2/3 of an inning and lost the game.
If they don't make the playoffs, finish that sentence.
Well, I think I'll follow on your previous comment. They'll have a pretty good reason why. You know, the Dodgers under Andrew Friedman have been very successful at saying, other than Kenley Jansen, who obviously is the best of the best at closer, the Dodgers are not going to spend a lot of money on setup guys. They think the performance is too volatile from year to year. They don't think it's a good expenditure of money. They want to go out and just churn guys and see what they can find. So last year, the Dodgers found Brandon Morrow basically on the scrap heap, came up on a minor league contract, had a great year, let him go. Cubs signed him for $20 million. The other issue with the Dodgers this year has been that the owners don't want to go over the luxury tax threshold. And obviously the Dodger payroll is high enough to where trades for guys become a problem. So there were guys that the Dodgers might have gone after at the trade deadline to help that would have kicked their payroll too high. There were also, in fairness, guys that the Dodgers went after that they just couldn't agree on the trade on, or ultimately there were guys like Kelvin Herrera in Washington or Raisel Iglesias in Cincinnati where the teams didn't trade the players anyway. They kept them. But certainly it's hard to have a weakness and have ownership tie one hand behind your back at the trade deadline.
We were talking about what's happening with the Cardinals with Matt Carpenter and the fact he's leading the National League in home runs, MVP candidate. But, you know, the team doesn't make the playoffs. You know, handicap the MVP race because we're bringing in Scherzer now because it feels like there's a lack of candidates here. Javi Baez to me would be more of a MVP candidate with what he's done for the Cubs than Matt Carpenter, but you got to make the playoffs, I would imagine, with today's voters.
I don't know if I'd agree with that, and that's maybe because I live in the land of Mike Trout, but
okay,
I think in this day and age, again, as voting body changes, as it is with the Hall of Fame voters, I think voters are more willing to take a look and say, the same thing with pitchers. Remember, you say you had to be a 20-game winner. Okay, well, nobody wins 20 games anywhere. You got to be an 18-game winner. But there are guys who, you know, their win-loss record isn't that impressive, but we say, well, maybe wins aren't as important as they used to be. From my point of view, I think how your team does is still important. You know, there are people that talk about 2012. It comes down to Miguel Cabrera versus Mike Trout. And you hear people say, Trout got robbed. People voted wrongly. They just voted for Cabrera because he won the Triple Crown. And J.D. Martinez might win the Triple Crown this year in the American League. You know, one Mookie Betts slump away, and we're looking at that. And J.D. Martinez ranks 8th in WAR. And the argument is, oh, Mike Trout was the god of WAR that year, and he got gypped. Well, I didn't have a vote that year. But if you look back that year, I would have voted for Cabrera because he lifted the Detroit Tigers to a come-from-behind playoff berth. He played well down the stretch when the games matter more. And I respect people who say that shouldn't be the primary criterion, but I have a hard time with people saying, don't even look at how the team does at all. But, you know, there's 2 votes for every city in the National League and 2 votes for every city in the American League, and it makes for hopefully a diversity of opinion.
That's not an official title for Mike Trout, the God of War, is it?
Pretty close.
Okay. All right. Then, you know, that's a good nickname. Like he's the God of War. Go with it, Bill.
All yours.
Oh, I get it. Oh, great. All right. Bill, thank you. We appreciate your time.
All right. Take care.
That's Bill Shaikin, LA Times baseball columnist, covers the Dodgers.
For more Dan Patrick Show, tune to Audience Channel 239 on DirecTV or download the Dan Patrick Show app.